Okay, so just to in a very short way, we will rewind what happened in the last class. Then we will go to today's class because both are having a very good continuation. So in order to help us to know what happened in the last class, let's take some of the some help from your friends. Okay, so let me check who can help us. Okay, uh, Sandeep Malik. Sandeep Malik. Sandeep Malik. What happened, Sandeep Malik? Okay, I'll write down his name, Sandeep Malik. Okay, then Sandeep Malik will respond to us little lately. Pratik Sahu. Pratik Sahu. Pratik Sahu.
Hello.
Hi man, can you hear me right? Hey, can you
Yes,
please
sir.
quickly summarize what happened in the last class?
So we learned about the time response analysis.
Okay.
So how it is denoted by C of t and can be obtained by differential equations.
Okay.
So and then so we learned about its two parts, transient and steady state response.
What is transient? What is steady state?
Sir, the intermediate process when the system changes from one state to another, that is transient, and steady state when the final state has been achieved.
Okay, good.
So then we learned about the test signals.
Okay, how many test
Different types
signals
of
we
test
learned?
signals.
Yes.
So ramp signal, parabolic,
Hmm.
impulse, and step signals.
Very good.
And then we did some examples on so graphical representations
Okay.
of test signals. 4 examples there were.
So among the test signal, which signal represents sudden shock? Means sudden change.
So step signals.
Step shock,
So impulse.
impulse. Very good. So what are the other two signals which I told that is not listed that can also be used as a test signal? Do you remember?
So, exponential.
Exponential, no. The other two signals I told that is also test signals, but at least from syllabus point of view, we are not covering. I told. Do you remember? Pratik Sahu.
Sinusoidal signals.
Sinusoidal, then
So and
sinusoidal, then okay, sinusoidal and random. Then what? Like after that, what we saw? You quickly summarize. We'll start today's class. Next.
so after that, so we did examples on that 4 graphical representations now.
That's not an example. That is the mathematical representation of the each profile I have given. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So okay, then we saw the order of the system. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Orders.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Pratik Sagu. Actually, I'll come back to you a little later after this class. Let's start today's class. Okay. So now, in today's class, we are going to start seeing what will be the response of a system. If a system is first order, system can be second order, system can be third order. So here I would like to add one thing. So yesterday we were looking for an example of a first order. See, for example, if a system is a simple spring mass damper combination, then it is second order. So in vibrations, without mass, nothing will vibrate. Okay, so mostly the problems would be second order. So then where the first order would come? So those things, actually yesterday I was looking into that example. So I realized that in electrical problems, okay, actually system dynamics and control, we are seeing only from the mechanical point of view. We are not looking at the electrical point of view. But in electrical problems, there are chances that first order systems are possible. Even in thermal problems, whatever we are looking is vibrational problem. In thermal problems also first order systems are possible. Okay, so first order systems are physically possible, may not be in vibration but in other fields as like electrical and thermal problems. Okay, so with that in mind, we'll go to the today's topic, which is yes.
Sir, if a mass tempered system does not have inertial force, then it will reduce to first order differential equation.
Yes, I agree. But mass, if you include, then you are including inertia by naturally.
Like you have given one problem in assignment 1 or 2. There is no forces acting on the system.
Yes, the force is not acting, but the system. Yes, but system can have can be in equilibrium by itself. That the system do not move. So when the mass is included, then you are actually including the inertial force. The mass element is actually representing the inertial force. So in that way, okay, now let's not go into the details of that. Let's assume that first order systems are available, and you please come to the slide number 138. Okay, don't get amazed why the slide number is 138, because it is continuation of long slides. I directly printed it as it is, so the slide number is 138. So in slide number 138, what we are going to see is what would be the response of a system, okay, if I give unit step input. Okay, so what is our final aim? We want to learn how to find the response of a system for any order. Okay, so we are starting from the first order, then we'll move to the second order. Mostly if you know how to do until second order system, the other orders are very much similar to it. Okay, so you please see the slide number 138 and see the figure. RFS is going to a summation point, and the transfer function of a first order system is represented by 1 by capital T of S. Capital T is any coefficient, it's not time. Okay, time is represented by small t. This capital T is any coefficient. Let it be, it can be even A, B, C also, but A, B, C, why we are not using? Because in partial fraction we are going to use A, B, C. So here they are using it as capital T. And now you should be amazed from where this transfer function 1 by capital Ts has come. That you don't have to worry. This is a general representation of a first order system. Okay, first order system can have a very general representation. Whatever system you are doing, that transfer function you can use here and follow the same procedure. So this is an example problem to tell you how to solve for a first order system. The procedure will remain same. The problem what is almost given is an example problem. It can be a generalized problem. So don't think that how that 1 by capital T small s has come. It can be from any system, even it can vary from one system to another, but the procedure is same. Okay, so this system is having a feedback. What is kind of feedback does it have? Positive, negative?
Negative.
Negative. What is value of the feedback?
1
unit feedback, right?
1.
So yeah, unit, it is called as a unit feedback. So when I do the unit feedback system, when I try to find the overall transfer function, I got 1 by 1 plus capital T of S. Okay, so you please try to follow this and the next slide. If you follow this and the next slide with me, you can able to solve the second order system by yourself. That much simple, because the procedure is same everywhere. Okay, so kindly try to follow with me for these two slides. So now what is the transfer function? Finally I got overall 1 by 1 plus capital T by small s, right? You see the equation, C of S by R of S is equal to 1 by 1 plus capital T of S, right? Now how to find the C of S? Now multiply the R of S cross diagonally with the transfer function. But what is our input now? As per the question, my input is unit step. For unit step, what is my R of S? You can go to the table. For unit step function, what is our R of S? You can just 1 minute. Okay, for a unit step function, what is our for unit step function, what is our R of S? You can refer our table. You can see it is 1 by S. Okay,
1 by S.
1 by S. So C of S equal to R of S into the transfer function. Now the transfer function R of S has become 1 by S. Now you look at the last equation. The general tendency is, it's simple mathematics. Now I'm keeping C of S, cross multiplying R of S. Now my input is unit step. Unit step means R of S is 1 by S. Now I am you see the coefficient in the equation, right? 1 plus capital T small s. Okay, here you follow one technique that always keep the s free from any coefficient. Don't keep the s with the coefficient. For example, here there is a coefficient T is there. So you always keep the s free from its coefficient. So if there is a coefficient, you take it outside. Whatever coefficient is there with the s within the equation, you take it outside because you keep s as it is. Why? Because then partial fraction will become easier. Once you do partial fraction, you can do inverse Laplace transform easier. You will understand in the coming slide. So what I'm doing is I'm taking the capital T outside. Then the final equation, I'm getting this simple mathematics only, 1 by T by s into s plus 1 by T. Okay. So I did not do any complex mathematics. I only took that my input is unit step. I multiplied with the transfer function, which I know that for this given system in the figure, it is unit step 1 by 1 plus ts. Now kindly go to slide number 139. In case if you are looking. Okay. Now these are like same Laplace transforms equations I have given. You see everywhere the s is not having any coefficient. You can see the slide number 139. Everywhere s is not having any coefficient. So that is why we are telling that whenever some coefficient is with the s, you take it outside. Even you go to slide number 140, everywhere s is not having coefficient. Okay, this is why I am telling you. Now come to slide number 141. Okay. Now by coming to slide number 141, now what I am doing is I am doing a partial fraction. How to do partial fraction? You need to know mathematically. Okay. So that is independent, that is outside the scope of this syllabus. So partial fraction I am doing, when I do the partial fraction, I am getting CFS equal to 1 by s minus 1 by s plus 1 by t. So now by doing a Laplace inverse of 1 by s is what? 1. Now Laplace inverse of 1 by s plus 1 by t is e power minus at. So that becomes 1 minus e power minus small t by capital T. So now finally the response in time domain is given by c of t equal to 1 minus e power minus small t by capital T. This is the final response of a system in time domain. Okay, let me just quickly in 1 minute I'll rewind. Nothing, we did not do anything, just calm down. We took the transfer function, cross multiplied with the input, then I multiplied s, then I took the coefficient of s outside, then I did the partial fraction, then after doing partial fraction I'm taking Laplace inverse. So this is what I did to get to the time domain. Okay, now so what this curve represents, let's see in the next slide. So finally you see the slide number 142. Okay, let capital T be anything. So now you see the figure 2.7a. You see the figure 2.7a. This is the input. What is the input? Unit step. You see at time t equal to 0, 1 unit is applied and that constantly applying. For the given system, what is the response we got in time domain? 1 minus e into e power minus small t by capital T. If a same system is not having a unit response or unit step instead of something means, then a would come. If a unit means, the a will not come. Now we have to see how my system will react. So in order to understand how my system will react, I am plotting between t versus my c of t. You see the table means how they are changing, means how they are drawing this plot. First when t is 0, when t is 0, c of t is 1 minus e power 0, 0. When t is 1t, 2t, 3t, 4t. So they are getting all the values and they are plotting. Now you see up to which part of the curve it is called as transient curve, transient behavior. When up to which part of the curve is called transient?
Up to
40. Yes, very good. Up to 40, the you see after, yes, very good. So now in order to reach the unit, the value of my output, say I am taking a cantilever, compressing it to 1 mm. My cantilever goes to 1 mm, but how soon it reaches to 1 mm? You see, it is taking some time up to 40, then it reaches the same output. Okay, so this is the response of my system. So if you want the system to respond very quickly, what you have to do is you have to play with some parameters in the system until your system also gives very quick response. See, now a system at 40, it gives the output of 1. Now, if 2T only, if you want 1 means you should design your system. So what happened, like, you know how fast your system is responding. Okay, so now what happened, if that fast is not good for you, you have to go back to the first order system, change some parameter, come and plot its output. If that much fast is enough for you, then happy. If not enough, again you have to go back to the first order system, do some changes in the parameter, come back and see its output graph. So this is how, for example, if I put the brake, that is a sudden input, right? So my car should stop very quickly. Now I will see how fast my car will react. So that is like unit step. If I know some kind of a formula, then I can try its response with the unit step. Okay, so unit step is clear. Unit step, is it clear how to do unit step?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Now I'm going to give just 5 minutes. Go to slide number 143. Just try what happens if your system is unit ramp. Can you try now? How to do if a system is been applied with the unit ramp? Just try. Anyway, this I would give us assignment. So you please try now for 5 minutes because I can clarify some query now. You find the response of a first order system if the input is unit ramp. Can you try now? I'll give you 5 minutes, then I will ask somebody to send the answer. Try unit ramp. You know what, like what is RFS of unit ramp? RFS for unit ramp?
1 by square.
1 by s square. Okay, very good. Now do it. Same input, same first order system. Take the same formula. 1 by 1 plus capital T small s. Take the same formula. Try. I'll give you 5 minutes. Try. Try. If you finish, send me the picture in WhatsApp. If I finish, or anyway, I will also pick somebody who can randomly. Just 5 minutes take. I have started getting some answers that are pretty close to right values. I think so far, whatever answer I received, one person has exactly solved the right solution. I will tell who is the person so far with what I received. Now many started giving me right answers. Very good. Many started giving me right answers. Okay, the solutions given by your CR is correct. The solution given by your CR is right, exactly as the right solution. Some of the people have missed the capital T. Okay, many people missed the capital T in the solutions. Okay, CR, can you put the solution in the group? CR, can you put the solution in the group?
Yes, sir. Sure, sir.
Your solution is right. You see in the group, your CR would post the solution, that is the right one. You can see its answer. CR, can you put the steps you took it so that others know how you derived it? Many got stuck with this. one of the students got stuck with the partial fraction. He got complicated. I will come to that person. Yes, that is also correct. You are right. Yes, here kindly post your steps also so that others can know how you derive. The people who
Yes, sir.
cannot.
Already posted, sir.
Yes, I just saw. Okay, I'm not checking your steps right now, but your final answer is correct. I believe you followed this. Okay. Okay. Anyway, we will continue. We'll come back to the class. Very good. So now, what would be the response for a unit impulse and a unit parabolic? You can try yourself. That would be the part of assignment anyway. That is also coming. Now let's go to the next slide, 144. Please come back to the class. The solutions already been shared with you for unit RAM and impulse signal and parabolic signal. You can try yourself. Anyway, they are coming as assignments. Okay. Okay, now first order system we have seen. Okay, very good, very simple. My life is very happy. No, your life will not be happy because world is so complex that you need to upgrade yourself to learn the complexity. So now let's start looking into the first complex problem, that is on second order system. Okay, so the general second order system can be expressed as shown in the slide number 144. Okay, do not amaze how I got this general expression. Again, I'm telling, they are like uh, for making you to understand how this problem is solved. They are showing you this transfer function. It can be again any transfer function what you derived for the problem. You can follow the same technique. Okay, so now again they are also having a unit negative feedback. So finally the overall transfer function is omega n squared by s square plus 2 zeta omega n s plus omega n square. Okay, here two new terms are coming into picture. What are the two new terms? You can see at the beginning, means at the below, undamped natural frequency omega n, which is undamped natural frequency, and damping ratio. Okay, so first thing is I want to make you to understand the physical meaning of natural frequency. What is the physical meaning of natural frequency? Can somebody tell me? Physical meaning.
Sir, the frequency at which the particles of the system vibrate.
Can you still explain more? Okay, natural frequency is frequency at which system vibrate. Can you make me feel what is the usefulness of the value? What I will know? What I can know from that natural frequency? Still I am not able to feel the practical meaning. If I tell the frequency at which my body will vibrate, okay, but still I am not feeling the practical meaning of this natural frequency term. Can somebody explain me what you understand and how can you practically make you feel? What is the real practical understanding you can get? Something is having 10 hertz, okay? Some system is having 100 hertz. So now what do you understand from this? 10 hertz. Don't tell this body is vibrating at 10 hertz, this body is vibrating at 100 hertz. Of course, that's the frequency value we are given, but what it practically tells you? What do you understand from this 10 hertz? What do you understand from this 100 hertz? Physically, what you will understand?
So basically, when we displace the body from its main position and we leave that, it will start like vibrating in that frequency. That's the natural frequency. And if you are giving it force that is as an external frequency, then like in the starting, the body will vibrate with its natural frequency. Then it will add up to vibrate with the frequency of the internal force.
Yes. So, okay, but what you can physically still, you started rightly. I thought you are really telling right way. But of course, what you said is not technically wrong. It's correct, exactly correct. But the point what I want to make everybody understand on the term natural frequency, you started rightly but slightly deviated. But your definition is right, and I'm not saying wrong. But what is practically what you understand? If I say some system is having 10 hertz, some system is having 100 hertz, what do you understand? Okay, I will ask you this way. Okay, 10 hertz and 100 hertz. Say for example,
Yes.
System A is having. I am reframing my question. Okay, to make you feel. Why I am talking about natural frequency? Because I am a vibration engineer, so that I can also tell you the physical meaning behind this value. So some system is having. System A is having 10 hertz. System B is having 100 hertz natural frequency. Now, if I displace system A and B from its equilibrium position, which system will tend to return to its equilibrium position very fast?
Higher frequency.
100 hertz system.
100 hertz system, very good. So what do you understand from the physical meaning of natural frequency then?
It's like they return to the main position very quickly. It's one has higher frequency.
Yes, very good. That's the physical meaning. So if I say natural frequency is so and so, then that how much fast that system will try to return to its natural to its equilibrium point. Okay, so natural frequency will decide how soon the system will try to return to its natural to its equilibrium point. If a system is having a very low frequency, natural frequency means if I disturb it, it will come to its equilibrium position very slowly. If I disturb it, and if the system is having high natural frequency, the system tries to come back to its equilibrium position very fast. So now you put it in your mind, what is the physical meaning of natural frequency? Yes, of course, it is a frequency at which my body will vibrate after the initial disturbance. But what is physically tells me that it means that how soon my system will come back to its equilibrium point. Now, in terms of vibration control, okay, in terms of vibration control, this natural frequency plays a very key role. Let's not go into the details, but I will tell you, you keep like this. If you given a chance, whether would you keep natural frequency less or natural frequency high, low or high, if you got a chance, which one would you prefer?
So higher natural frequency.
Higher natural. Why you want to give higher natural frequency?
The first thing is like if you are displacing a body, it will come to like the main position very quickly. And secondly, like the resonance problem won't be there because naturally, whenever we are seeing, we can provide frequencies with like like we can provide oscillations with very less frequency. So the problem of resonance won't be there.
Okay. See, actually, you told exactly opposite of vibration control. Okay, I'm talking about vibration control. In vibration control, we always prefer low natural frequency. I will tell you why. Okay, remember like this, in vibration control, we always prefer low natural frequency, not the high one. Why we prefer low natural frequency? I will try to explain the very complex process in a very simple sentence. If you understand, it's very good. If you don't understand, don't worry. You can learn it later also in vibration class. Say, so what happened if a system is having a low natural frequency, but my input is having very high frequency? Okay, my system is having low natural frequency, but my input is coming, my external excitation is having very high. What will happen? Once the first wave hit my system will displace out from equilibrium. Now my system is slowly trying to return back to its equilibrium because it's having low natural frequency, but the external vibration is coming at very high frequency, right? So by the time the second wave is coming to hit my system, the direction of force between my system and the excitation is opposite to each other, so they get cancelled out. Let me repeat again. So if my natural frequency is very less, my system will try to return to its equilibrium position very slowly. By the time my external frequency is very high, so when the second wave is hitting my system, the direction of the force between my external and my system response is opposite to each other. So that cancel outs and that provides vibration suppression. Okay. If you understand, well and good. If you don't understand, don't worry. You will again learn in detailed way in vibration subject. But just understand one thing: how to put or how to suppress the vibration. You reduce the natural frequency to very low. Means our system, not external of a system. Okay. Now let's not worry.
Okay,
Let's come to.
got it, sir.
You got it. If you got it, well
Yes,
and good.
thank you,
Now
sir.
let's come. Okay, let's come back to the transfer function. The transfer function of a second order system generally can be given as omega n square by s square plus zeta omega n s into omega n square. Now what is this damping ratio? You should know because you have not learned damping ratio at all so far because of subject of vibration is not been covered. But just I would like to know, have you heard about critical damping? What is called critical damping? Have you heard of what is critical damping? What is damping? Let's say, because if you don't understand damping, you cannot know what is damping.
Dissipation of energy.
Okay, so if a system is having high
Sir,
damping, what is the meaning?
So it dissipates more energy.
More energy. Very good. So now there are two parameters only are there in vibration problem. One is natural frequency, other one is damping ratio. Okay, so I told you natural frequency, you try to keep it low. Now damping ratio, will you keep it high or will you keep it low? Which one you want? Which one will you prefer? As of now, you think and tell me.
High.
High. Why you want to keep high?
Sir, it will dissipate the energy more, so it will means come to stable equilibrium.
Very good. But what is the problem? In vibration, we never keep it high, we always keep it low. We want to keep both my natural frequency and the damping ratio, means damping value low, not very high. But how much low? Damping ratio is having one limit. On what basis I will tell low, on what basis I will tell high. Okay, that line is called as critical damping. Below the critical damping, then I will call that this system is having low damping, and damping value above the critical damping, I will call it as this system is having high damping. Now what is this critical damping? I will tell you. See, what is the critical damping? For example, if I take a simple pendulum and disturb it, what will happen? It slowly oscillate and comes to its rest. So how would you see its graph? The sine curve is growing and slowly sine curve is shrinking and becomes straight line, right? The sine, it will start like a sine curve and slowly it will get shrink. But if you give the damping that is called as critical damping, then the body will come to its equilibrium position without any oscillation. Let me repeat again. If a system is having a critical damping value, this critical damping value will vary from one system to another system. How to calculate critical damping? It is 2 root mk. Okay, critical damping is equal to 2 root mk, where m is the mass, k is the stiffness. Critical damping of the system. How to evaluate critical damping of system? You take the system and make its 2 root, I think its formula is 2 root mk. I will also try to clarify it tomorrow. That formula is anyway not required here, but I think 2 root mk. So you calculate for a given system what is a critical damping value by using 2 root mk. Now you measure the real damping of a system. If the real damping is lower than the 2 root mk, then it is having low damping. Higher means called high damping, and I'll tell you always we want to have a low damping only. Okay, so now the ratio of, now let's go to the next slide, slide number 145. Now the ratio of actual damping to the critical damping is called as damping ratio. So now the ratio of actual damping in the system to the critical damping, how I evaluated? I use the formula 2 root mk and I know what is the critical damping. But can you tell me how to evaluate a damping of a system? Critical damping, I have a formula. Okay, I have formula 2 root mk. But how to evaluate a damping of a system? How to calculate how much damping it has? See, I gave you mass, spring and damper. A mass is standing on a spring and the damper. Now I'm asking you, see, I don't know what is the damping value. Please help me to find out. How would you tell me? How would you find out?
C into 2 root km.
By root 2 root km would give the critical damping. That means that if this damper is having that critical damping coefficient C, if that damping is having that critical coefficient C, then my body will come to rest without oscillation. But now, just 1 minute, I'll come back. 1 minute, 1 minute. Hello. Yes, now tell me how to find the actual damping value. I will only know by root of 2 root mk that how much damping my system should have so that it comes to rest without any oscillation. But I want to know real damping. How can you tell me? How can you tell me? Tell me.
We will solve the transfer function, then the required equation we will have an exponential term, so that term will represent the damping.
You are almost right. You are almost right. Anyway, you did not study the vibration subject, but still the attempt you took is almost exactly right. See, what they will do is, now I will oscillate, I will give any input, any input, like even the damp means a step or ramp, whatever input, then I will experimentally measure its output. I will experimentally measure its output from the rate of decay. Means I initially disturb my system, then I will allow the system to slowly slowly come to rest. Then I will see how much time it has taken to come to rest. Based on that, I can tell you what is the damping of the system. Let me repeat again. How to find damping of the system? Simply that I will disturb my system, then I will plot its output.